Have you ever pondered the consequences of Biden's strikes in Yemen? What if the very fabric of global politics is being reshaped right under our noses? This isn't just a rhetorical question. It's an invitation to delve deeper into a topic that's making ripples across the globe. Let's rewind a bit. Biden's administration has been pursuing an aggressive strategy against perceived threats, whether it's ISIS-K in Afghanistan, Iran-linked attacks in Syria, or the recent strikes in Yemen. These actions have sparked heated debates not just in the political corridors of Washington, D.C., but also in international forums. The question we're facing today isn't just about the legitimacy or effectiveness of these strikes, but also about their broader consequences. In Afghanistan, the controversy over drone strikes has raised serious concerns about civilian casualties and the ethical and legal implications of such operations. The so-called over-the-horizon strategy, which relies heavily on drone strikes, has been criticized for its potential to cause more civilian deaths and its questionable legality. Despite these controversies, the administration remains committed to this approach. Now, let's shift our gaze to eastern Syria. Here, Biden's administration conducted airstrikes against weapons and ammunition depots linked to Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. This was a response to a series of attacks by Iranian-backed militias on U.S. bases. But it's not just about retaliation. It's about a precarious balance of power that could tip into a wider war, a conflict that nobody desires. And then, there's Yemen. The strikes here may not have grabbed as many headlines, but they hold the potential to reshape the geopolitical landscape. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin, despite his recent health issues, has been closely monitoring the strikes in Yemen, indicating their significance in U.S. foreign policy. But what do these strikes mean for Yemen, for the Middle East, and for the world at large? What are the rippling effects that we may not yet fully understand? And how does this all tie back to the decisions being made in the halls of power in Washington, D.C.? These are the questions we'll be exploring in the coming minutes. We'll delve into the genesis of these strikes, their escalation, the direct and indirect consequences, and the future implications they hold for global politics. So, buckle up as we embark on this journey to unravel the truth behind Biden's strikes in Yemen. Before we delve into the consequences, one must understand the inception of these strikes. The genesis of President Biden's strikes in Yemen lies in a complex web of geopolitical tensions. The strikes were not an arbitrary decision, but a calculated response to a series of provocations. It all began with a series of attacks by Iranian-backed militias on U.S. bases in Iraq and Syria. These attacks were seen as a direct affront to the U.S., threatening not only its military assets but also its strategic interests in the region. In response, President Biden ordered 2 airstrikes in eastern Syria, targeting weapons and ammunition depots linked to Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. This marked the start of the U.S.'s active military involvement in Yemen, a move aimed at neutralizing the threats posed by these militias. The international community watched these developments with bated breath. There were those who saw it as a necessary measure to maintain regional stability, and others who feared it could spark a wider conflict. The situation was precarious, with any attack resulting in the death of U.S. troops potentially leading to a major U.S. response and possibly a direct war with Iran. It's important to note that these strikes were not launched in isolation. They were part of a broader strategy to counter the Islamic State and other extremist groups in the region. This included the deployment of aircraft carrier groups and additional fighter jets, as well as the stationing of U.S. troops in Iraq and Syria. Amidst all this, President Biden sent a clear message to Iran's supreme leader. He stated that the U.S. would respond if attacks on its forces continued. The risks were high, with the potential for unintended escalation and the possibility of a conflict that nobody desired. As we've seen, the strikes were not impulsive but a response to a series of events. But what happened next? The strikes in Yemen did not remain an isolated incident. They escalated, leading to a series of unforeseen events. The strikes were like a spark in a tinderbox, igniting a chain reaction of events that reverberated across the globe. The initial strikes, intended to neutralize threats and assert power, soon spiraled into a complex web of conflict and unease. As the situation escalated, other nations were drawn into the fray, each with their own vested interests and agendas. Some nations saw an opportunity to assert their influence, while others were forced to react in response to the growing instability. The situation was not just about Yemen anymore, it had become a global issue. Simultaneously, non-state actors also played a significant role in the escalation. Groups with diverse ideologies and objectives capitalized on the chaos, further muddying the waters. The strikes in Yemen had become a rallying point, a symbol of wider conflicts and power struggles. The role of Iran, for instance, was particularly noteworthy. The country's alleged backing of militias and its own strategic goals added yet another layer of complexity to the situation. The conflict was no longer confined to Yemen's borders. It had spilled over into other regions, and had the potential to ignite a larger, more widespread conflict. Meanwhile, the United States found itself walking a tightrope. On one side was the need to respond to threats and maintain its strategic interests. On the other side was the risk of escalating the conflict further, potentially leading to a war nobody desired. The strikes also had profound implications for the Biden administration's foreign policy. They highlighted the delicate balance between maintaining national security and avoiding unnecessary conflict. The administration found itself under scrutiny, with critics raising questions about the strategy, transparency, and the ethical implications of the strikes. The escalation of the conflict has far-reaching consequences. Let's delve deeper into these implications. What are the consequences of these strikes? How are they affecting the world as we know it? Let's delve into this critical issue. The impact of these strikes on Yemen's political and social landscape is profound. The already fragile state of affairs has been further destabilized, intensifying the ongoing humanitarian crisis. The strikes have not only created a power vacuum, but have also fueled anti-American sentiments among the populace, complicating efforts towards peace and reconciliation. Moving to the regional power dynamics, these strikes have stoked the flames of an already volatile Middle East. They have escalated tensions between Iran and the United States, with the former accusing the latter of aggression and violation of sovereignty. This has not only strained the relations between these two nations, but has also led to a wider ripple effect, influencing the political dynamics within the region itself. At a global level, the strikes have raised serious questions about the use of force in international relations. They have sparked debates on the ethical and legal dimensions of drone strikes, particularly concerning civilian casualties. The strikes have also led to a growing call for transparency and accountability in the operations of drone strikes. Moreover, these strikes have had implications on the United States' own political scene. They have sparked criticism from within, with calls for a more measured and diplomatic approach in dealing with international conflicts. The strikes have also raised concerns about the concentration of power within the executive branch, and the need for greater oversight and checks and balances. Lastly, the strikes have had significant humanitarian consequences. The loss of innocent lives has not only been tragic, but has also led to a backlash against the United States, both domestically and internationally. As we've seen, the strikes have led to a multitude of consequences, but what does this mean for the future? The answer to this question will shape the trajectory of not just Yemen and the Middle East, but the world at large. The stakes are high, and the decisions made today will inevitably shape the world of tomorrow. What does the future hold in the aftermath of Biden's strikes in Yemen? How will it shape global politics? The ripples of Biden's actions in Yemen are bound to reverberate across the world stage. Every decision, every action, every strike has consequences. Some immediate, some delayed, but all significant. So let's delve into the potential future implications of these strikes. The first scenario we must consider is the potential for an escalating conflict. The strikes have already provoked a response, and the danger of a spiraling cycle of retaliation cannot be ignored. This could trigger heightened tensions and an escalation of violence, not just in Yemen, but across the Middle East. Next, there's the impact on the international community's perception of the United States. The strikes may raise questions about America's role as a global peacekeeper. Some may view the actions as necessary and justified, while others may see them as a violation of sovereignty and international law. This could lead to a shift in alliances, straining relations with some countries while potentially strengthening ties with others. Then there's the stance of the Biden administration. While it has acknowledged the harm caused by the strikes, whether it will adjust its policies in response to the backlash remains to be seen. The administration's future actions will be closely watched and could have a profound impact on its legacy. Lastly, we must consider the humanitarian aspect. The strikes, while aimed at military targets, have inevitably affected civilians. The international community will be looking at how the U.S. handles the aftermath and whether it provides assistance to those affected. This could significantly influence America's global standing. Looking ahead, we find ourselves in a world where the decisions of today will shape the geopolitics of tomorrow. The repercussions of Biden's strikes in Yemen are far from over. They will continue to influence international relations, global security, and humanitarian aid policies, among other areas. The future may be uncertain, but one thing is clear. Biden's strikes in Yemen have left an indelible mark on the world stage. It's crucial to understand the implications and prepare for the future. Before we conclude our deep dive into the international implications of Biden's strikes in Yemen, we'd like to take a moment to remind you to subscribe to our channel. By subscribing, you're not just showing support for our work, you're becoming part of a community that's committed to understanding the world around us. Don't forget to hit the bell icon to turn on notifications, ensuring you won't miss our upcoming videos. We'll continue to provide you with insightful analysis and thought-provoking content, exploring the most significant geopolitical events and their potential impact on our world. Thank you for watching, and we look forward to continuing this enlightening journey with you. Stay tuned for more.